The sound of rain echoed across the nearly empty service station just outside Cedar Ridge, Colorado. Most drivers had already found shelter for the night, leaving only one weathered pickup truck parked beneath the flickering lights of Miller's Auto Repair. Inside the small garage, 62-year-old Ethan Miller tightened the last bolt on an aging engine before wiping the grease from his hands with a faded blue shop towel. The clock on the wall read 8:47 p.m. He should have closed an hour ago, but Ethan had never been the kind of man who left unfinished work behind. As he reached for the light switch, headlights slowly rolled into the parking lot. An old silver pickup coughed twice before dying completely in front of the garage door. Ethan watched through the rain-speckled window as a young man stepped out, followed by a woman carrying a sleeping little girl wrapped tightly in a blanket. The man looked exhausted. His boots were soaked, his jeans covered in mud, and worry was written across his face. Ethan unlocked the garage door before the stranger even knocked. "You folks all right?" he asked. The young man forced a tired smile. "I hope so." He introduced himself as Daniel Brooks. His wife, Emily, stood quietly beside him, trying not to wake their 6-year-old daughter, Lily. "We've been driving since this morning," Daniel explained. "My wife starts a nursing job tomorrow in Denver. Everything we own is in the back of the truck." He paused before looking down. "It just died?" Ethan nodded without saying much. He had repaired engines for 40 years. Most problems introduced themselves before the hood was even opened. "Let's take a look." Within minutes, the old mechanic discovered the problem. The transmission had suffered major internal damage. Replacing it wouldn't be cheap. Daniel stood silently while Ethan explained the repair. Finally, he spoke. "How much?" Ethan hesitated. "If I charge you the normal price." Daniel's shoulders dropped before Ethan even finished. "It'll be around $2,800. The young father closed his eyes. Emily quietly looked away. Neither of them said anything for several seconds. Finally, Daniel reached into his wallet and counted every bill he had. $342. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "That's everything we've got." The little girl slowly opened her eyes. "Daddy, are we sleeping in the truck again?" Daniel smiled, even though it clearly hurt. "Maybe just tonight, sweetheart." Ethan looked toward the family, then toward the truck, then back at the old photograph hanging beside his workbench. It showed a younger version of himself standing beside another mechanic, his father. Beneath the picture was a sentence his father had repeated almost every day. "A mechanic doesn't just fix machines, he keeps families moving." Ethan quietly folded the money back into Daniel's hand. "You'll need this more than I do." Daniel blinked. I don't understand." "I'm fixing your truck." "But I can't pay." "I didn't say you could." "I can't accept that." "You can." Daniel tried again. "I'll send you payments." Ethan smiled. "When your family's settled, help someone else who needs it." Emily covered her mouth to hide the tears forming in her eyes. No contracts, no paperwork, no conditions, just trust. While the family rested inside the tiny waiting room, Ethan stayed in the garage long after midnight. Rusted bolts refused to move. Rain continued pounding against the roof. His old knees reminded him that he wasn't 30 anymore, but he never slowed down. At one point, Emily quietly walked into the garage carrying a cup of coffee. "You've been working for almost 4 hours." Ethan smiled. "So has this truck." She laughed softly for the first time all evening. "My husband keeps saying there aren't people like you anymore." There never were many. Around 2 o'clock in the morning, the replacement transmission was finally installed. The old pickup started on the very first turn of the key. Its engine sounded stronger than it had in years. Daniel couldn't believe it. He hugged his wife before walking toward Ethan. "I don't know how to thank you." "You already did." "I didn't do anything. You trusted a stranger." Daniel looked confused. Ethan simply smiled. "That's becoming pretty rare these days." Before leaving, Lily climbed out of the truck holding something in her tiny hand. It was a crayon drawing, a small garage, a pickup truck, 3 smiling stick figures, and one older man wearing a blue cap. Across the top, she had carefully written, "Thank you for fixing our family." Ethan stared at the drawing for several quiet seconds, then carefully folded it and slipped it inside the front pocket of his work shirt. "I think," he said softly, "this might be the best payment I've ever received." The family drove away into the night. Ethan watched until the taillights disappeared beyond the highway. Only then did he switch off the garage lights. He had no idea that less than 12 hours later, half the town would be standing outside his little repair shop. And someone from his past, someone he hadn't seen in over 30 years, was about to walk through that garage door carrying news that would change his life forever. Ethan arrived at Miller's Auto Repair just before sunrise, as he had done almost every weekday for the past 4 decades. The town was still quiet. A cool mountain breeze drifted through the empty streets, carrying the smell of pine trees and fresh rain. He unlocked the garage door, switched on the lights, and hung Lily's crayon drawing beside the old photograph of his father. For a moment, he simply stood there looking at both pictures. One reminded him where he had learned his trade. The other reminded him why he still loved it. He had barely started the coffee maker when the sound of engines filled the street outside. One pickup truck, then another, then 3 more. Ethan frowned and walked toward the front window. Nearly 20 vehicles had stopped outside his small repair shop. Men and women climbed out wearing work boots, reflective safety jackets, utility uniforms, and construction helmets. None of them looked angry. They looked determined. Before Ethan could step outside, a tall man in his early 50s walked through the garage door. He removed his cap and smiled. "Ethan Miller? That's me. My name is Jack Reynolds." Ethan searched his memory but couldn't place the face. "I'm afraid I don't." Jack chuckled. "I didn't think you would." He reached into his wallet and carefully removed an old faded business card. The edges were worn. The ink had nearly disappeared. Across the top it still read, "Miller's Auto Repair. You gave me this card 28 years ago." Ethan stared at it. Slowly, memories began returning. A young truck driver, broken down on the interstate. Snowstorm. No money. He had repaired the truck anyway. "You remember now?" Ethan nodded quietly. "I remember." Jack smiled. "You told me something I've never forgotten." He laughed softly before repeating the words. "One good turn keeps the wheels moving." I've lived by that sentence ever since. The other workers slowly entered the garage. One by one they introduced themselves. A firefighter, a delivery driver, a school bus mechanic, an electrician, a road maintenance supervisor. Every single one had a different story. Years ago, their car had broken down. Their truck had failed. Their family had been stranded, and Ethan had helped without asking for anything in return. He hadn't remembered most of them, but they had never forgotten him. Jack finally explained why everyone had come. "Last night my nephew was driving through town." Ethan immediately thought of Daniel. "He told me about an old mechanic who repaired a family's truck for free." Jack smiled. "I knew there couldn't be 2 men like that." The garage grew quiet. Then Jack reached into his jacket pocket. He unfolded a letter. "Our community has been raising money." Ethan looked confused. "For what?" Jack glanced around the old building. The leaking roof, the cracked concrete floor, the outdated equipment that had been repaired more times than replaced. "You've spent 40 years fixing everyone else's problems." He placed the envelope on Ethan's workbench. "We figured it was finally time someone fixed yours." Inside was a certified bank check. $186,000. Ethan immediately pushed it back. "I can't take this." "You already have." "I didn't earn it." Jack shook his head. "No. You earned it one repair at a time." Before Ethan could respond, applause broke out inside the garage. Not loud, not dramatic, just sincere. Several people wiped away tears, others simply smiled. One older woman stepped forward. She introduced herself as Sarah Collins. "You repaired my husband's truck 12 years ago." Ethan nodded politely. "I'm glad it lasted." She smiled sadly. "My husband passed away last winter." "I'm sorry." "So am I." She took a deep breath. "But because you refused to charge us that day, we had enough money left to buy the medication that gave us 6 more months together." Silence filled the room. Ethan couldn't find the words. She gently squeezed his hand. "You thought you were fixing an engine. You gave me 6 more months with the love of my life. For the first time that morning, the old mechanic had to look away. Not because he was embarrassed, because he didn't trust himself to speak. Outside, more vehicles continued arriving. The local diner owner brought breakfast. The high school principal carried fresh coffee. A hardware store owner unloaded brand new tool cabinets. Someone else delivered a modern vehicle lift. A paint company offered to repaint the entire garage free of charge. By noon, the tiny repair shop looked more like a community celebration than a business. Local reporters soon arrived, expecting to interview the generous mechanic. Instead, they found Ethan tightening bolts on an elderly widow's sedan. One reporter finally asked, "Mr. Miller, today is supposed to be about you." Ethan smiled without looking up. "I know. So why are you still working?" He tightened the final bolt, closed the hood, and wiped his hands. "Because her brakes won't fix themselves." The reporter lowered his microphone. That simple answer told a far better story than any interview ever could. None of them knew that before sunset, a black SUV from Denver would pull into the parking lot, and the person stepping out carried an offer so extraordinary, it would force Ethan to choose between the life he had always known and a future he had never imagined. Late that afternoon, the celebration outside Miller's Auto Repair slowly settled into quiet conversations. Volunteers continued installing new shelves inside the garage while local children painted flower boxes beneath the front windows. Ethan stood near the entrance, watching neighbors laugh together in a way he hadn't seen in years. Then a sleek black SUV rolled into the parking lot. Unlike the reporters or townspeople, its driver remained inside for a moment before stepping out. A woman in her early 40s adjusted her navy blazer, looked around the garage, and walked toward Ethan with measured confidence. "Mr. Ethan Miller?" "That's right." "My name is Rebecca Lawson." She extended her hand. "I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Horizon Fleet Services." The name sounded familiar. Horizon maintained thousands of delivery trucks across several western states. Rebecca glanced around the crowded garage before smiling. "I've been looking forward to meeting you." Ethan looked puzzled. "I'm afraid we've never met." "No, but I've heard your name for nearly 20 years. She opened a leather folder and removed several photographs. Each one showed different trucks, different years, different drivers. Yet one thing connected them all. Small repair invoices from Miller's Auto Repair. "Our company has been collecting stories about independent mechanics who kept our drivers on the road when they couldn't afford dealership repairs." She placed the papers on Ethan's workbench. "Your name appeared more than anyone else's." Ethan quietly shrugged. "I was just doing my job," Rebecca smiled. "That's exactly why I'm here." She explained that Horizon planned to launch a nationwide apprenticeship program to train young mechanics, especially teenagers from small towns who couldn't afford technical schools. "We want someone to build it." Ethan laughed softly. "I think you've got the wrong man. We don't. I've never managed a big company. We're not looking for an executive." She looked around the garage. "We're looking for someone people trust." Silence settled between them. Rebecca finally slid one final document across the table. The position came with a generous salary, complete creative freedom, and the chance to open training centers across the country. Ethan stared at the offer. It was more money than he had imagined earning at this stage of his life. For a long moment, he said nothing. Finally, he looked toward the old photograph of his father, then toward Lily's crayon drawing hanging beside it. He folded the proposal and handed it back. "I'm honored." Rebecca's smile faded slightly. "But I can't leave this place. I thought you might say that." She wasn't disappointed. She almost seemed relieved. "What if we didn't ask you to leave?" Ethan looked up. Rebecca continued. "What if the first training center was built right here?" The garage fell silent again. Jack Reynolds looked at the volunteers. Sarah Collins smiled through tears. Even the reporters stopped writing. Rebecca pointed toward the empty warehouse across the street. "Horizon purchased that building this morning." Ethan blinked. "You did?" "We'd like to renovate it into the Ethan Miller Training Center." He immediately shook his head. "No," Rebecca laughed. "I haven't even finished. We don't want your name because you're famous. We want it because every person in this town tells the same story." She looked around the room. "You fixed their vehicles, but somehow, you also repaired their hope. No one spoke. The words carried more weight than applause ever could. A few days later, construction began. Retired mechanics volunteered to teach. Local businesses donated equipment. The community college offered scholarships. Within 6 months, the first class welcomed 18 students. Some had grown up in foster care. Some had left high school early. Others simply needed someone who believed in them. On the first morning, Ethan stood before the class wearing the same oil-stained blue work shirt he had worn for years. One student raised his hand. "Mr. Miller, what's the most important thing about fixing cars?" Several students expected him to mention engines, safety, technology, experience. Instead, Ethan smiled. "The person waiting for the car." The room grew quiet. He continued. "When someone hands you their keys, they're not just trusting you with a machine. They're trusting you with tomorrow's job interview, their child's doctor appointment, the trip to see their parents, the vacation they've saved for all year, the chance to get home safely." He rested an old wrench on the workbench. "If you remember that, you'll never become just a mechanic. You'll become someone people remember." Years passed. The training center graduated hundreds of students. Many opened repair shops of their own. Others joined rescue services, trucking companies, and engineering firms. Above the entrance to every Horizon training center, one sentence appeared in simple black letters. Not a company slogan, not a marketing campaign, just a lesson passed from one mechanic to another. Fix the person before you fix the vehicle. One autumn afternoon, Ethan received a handwritten letter. The return address made him smile. Denver. Inside was a family photograph. Daniel, Emily, Lily, standing beside a newer pickup truck. On the back of the picture, Lily, now a teenager, had written, "Mr. Miller. Dad says kindness is like changing someone's tire on a dark road. You may never know how far they travel because of it, but they'll never forget who stopped to help." Ethan carefully placed the photograph beside the old crayon drawing that still hung on his workshop wall. Some payments are made with money. Others arrive years later, folded inside an envelope, carrying proof that one ordinary decision became part of someone else's life story. As the sun disappeared behind the Colorado mountains, Ethan switched off the lights in the garage one final time that evening. The shop was still small. His hands were still stained with grease. Tomorrow there would be more broken engines waiting. And he wouldn't have wanted it any other way. Because in the end, the greatest mechanics don't just keep vehicles running. They keep hope moving forward, one family, one repair, and one act of kindness at a time.